Oisches. Oisches. So the Rebbe says that this is very interesting that we're using a mashal about the strength of a yid. We need a mashal because a mashal is needed when you can't see it. It's hard to grasp without the mashal. The strength of a yid in Yonah Shel Torah, you only have a mashal for it because it's so much stronger and more than what the mashal actually says. That's why you need a mashal for it. Yes. From the Biur Hanal, from the above explanation, as Loit Rashi is Merosh Surim, a mashal, that Merosh Surim is that a parable, that's the mashal of the strength of the Yidden, that they're like a sur, and the Gvois, Kum zu a Geschmack Erinyan in Yenu Shel Torah Shebepirush Rashi, is a new, comes a very interesting and Geschmack idea in the inner part of Torah, the wine of Torah, Shebepirush Rashi, that's in Rashi. The Neutigkeit von a Moschel is Davke, when the red wegen a Inyan Achiyombo. When is the necessity for a Moschel is when you're talking about a subject which is very deep. Which means, was der Inyan Kamoshulatz Mekemenit Mitzayru Masber sein. The idea as itself, you cannot really describe it, cannot explain it, you cannot shape it. The Fargit Manderoif a Moschel, that's where you give an example, a parable. Which means, what does a parable mean? You find another matter in which you could grasp. You do have the understanding how the idea, the shape of it. Which idea of that other idea that you found is similar to, it's like the nimshol. Durch them, and once you have that, you are able to understand. You get somewhat of an understanding in the nimshol, here. Well, that has been your name. Similar is now our idea. Those was Bilam had gesagt, dass Eden seinen Chazokim Kitzurim und Voice Alol, that Eden are strong like these mountaintops and these hilltops. Is blois a moshel? It's only a moshel. While the emisar chayzer v'toiket for Aid, because the true strength and force of a Yid, which they receive through the fathers and mother, is gornit be'erech dem chayzer v'tzurim v'vois. It's at all not in comparison to the strength of mountains and hilltops. It's such a strength that Balak will not be able even to have any imagination, not have a tzir to describe it at all. But in order for him to have somewhat of a grasp and hold an understanding in it, but when him gegeben a moshel, so this is the moshel, from Tzurim Ugvois, Halol from Tzurim Vesalol, which means the real strength is way, way beyond. But we have to give him a mashal so he understands it a little bit. What is the real strength of a yid? Well, the Rebbe is going to explain it. Tess, that's what in them the explanation. The emes Starkheit von a Yidden seine nit hayedai mit der Esau. The real strength of a Yidden are not the hands. Hands are the hands of Esau. Koyach haguv ha'itzu yodi. The power of the body, the strength of one's hand, that's not the true strength of a Yid. There's eine Ruchnis, is spiritual, koiches haneshama, the powers of the soul. Mainly, it's the power for self-sacrifice. Which overpowers all of one's powers is the power of Mesiras Nefesh. Also the physical hands. And is doch Meister das alles. He's Meister Nefesh means he gives everything up. And when we talk about the levels of the neshama, Madregas HaNeshama is those wie der Tzemach Tzedek is das Mevayer. as the Tzemach Tzedek explains this, Rosh Surim is Meramis of the Madrege Neshama, the head of the mountain. This hints to the level of the Neshama from welche jeder Yid hat the greatkeit, which every Yid has the preparedness, limser nafshel al kiddush Hashem, to give his soul over to sanctify the name of Hashem, beli shum tam v'das, without any reason, any understanding. V'lochei nikro rosh surim. That's why it's the top of the mountain. Shebechinas chazok hamoed, it's a very strong level. Der toike von Yidin is ein amunah b'Hashem. The strength of a Yid is his belief in Hashem. A welchen a Yid is muchen zu gehen für Sichos nefesh, over which a Yid is prepared to go self-sacrifice al kiddush Hashem. Shaloi lichber b'Hashem echad, not to deny the one Hashem. Und in eifun keilu udover she'efshe klal lichber b'Hashem echad, in a way as if it's totally impossible to deny Hashem echad. That is so strong and so powerful, and is beyond that. Can't be, under no circumstances can he go against Hashem. Und das ist was sagt Rashi, und das was Rashi sagt, das is what Rashi says. And im Istakel Bereshis Chulu, Roya Oisom Yisodim Bechazokim. I look at their beginnings, and I see how they're anchored, they're based, and they're strong. Al Yidei Obes V'Yemois, through the father and the mothers. While they're Chayzik M'Siris Nefesh Al Kiddush Hashem. The strength from M'Siris Nefesh to sanctify the name of Hashem, Hatman B'Yerusha from the Obes V'Yemois, we have an inheritance from our father and mothers. Was Od der Teuke from M'Siris Nefesh is Punkt der Hepach. This force from M'Siris Nefesh is exactly the opposite of the Musar from Teuke B'Shayches to Yonim Ha'olam, than the understanding of force in matters of the world. Together from Welt is Veranenkeit und Metzius. The world, the definition of world is existence and being. When a starke Sache in Welt meint, what does it mean in the world? Something strong. As the Metzius from der Sach is betoikev, that this item is with force. Aber Mesiris Nefesh is in Yonah Farken. Mesiris Nefesh is just the opposite. When is sich legamri mevatel, you totally negate yourself. Man geht sich den ganzen weg zum Eibischen, total devote yourself to Hashem. Und der Pfarrer ist der Alter Rebbe Mevayir. That's what the Alter Rebbe explains. As der Koyach of Mesiris Nefesh kum mitzadem, was Hashem echod. The power for Mesiris Nefesh comes that Hashem echod is meir by jeden Eden. That shines by every Yid in the Sham and his soul. Which is a part of godliness. So every Yid's soul, in his soul, there shines the level of Hashem Echad. Was the fun is in Eden Inyan Hamuna, the fun is in Eden Inyan Hamuna Mesiris Nefesh. From that soul, from that part of Mal Mamish of the godliness, that where the Yid has the belief in Mesiris Nefesh. While Mesiris Nefesh is hepach from them Teva Hanivra. Mesiris Nefesh goes against, is contrary to the nature of created being. Hanivra tut nit azach durch welchen sein Metzius wird ois. A created being doesn't do something which makes him not exist. Nor das is a göttlicher Koyach und Starkheit. This is a godly force and a godly strength. To negate yourself, to give up, a muna Mesiris Nefesh. Und das ist der Hemshech in Posuk. And this is the flow, the continuation of the verse. Ki meroish tzurim arenu goimer hein am levodod yishkon uvagoyim lo yischashuv. So the way we translate it is, der chayzek von Yidden, the stench von Yidden, tzurim, is an aneifung was macht sie in ganzen levodod. That strength they make them total hecher. Bis legamri nit in them gather from alle Völker. They're not in the definition of all the nations. They're not part of all the nations. Because they're anchored in that level of Mesiris Nefesh, the level of bittul, which we get through the office of Emois, that makes them separate. That they're totally alone. Und das ist das Yud, das ist das Bore in Divrei Rashi. And in Mistakel Bereshis and Chulu, I look at the beginnings, I look them, Eden, the Yisodim v'chazokim on the Avos v'Mois. How are they anchored? How are they based? What gives them the strength, the father and the mother? As the Toike from the Avos v'Mois, wird übergegeben to the Eden, that strength, the force from the father and the mothers is being passed along to the Eden, Atzit Kol Adoidos, to all, end of all generation, Shinuim, without any changes. Then, as if you would speak of strength of a created being, is the Tzayich as der Chayzik soll übergegeben werden mit der Dör, then it doesn't apply to pass along that strength from generation to generation in themselves and to keep the strength. Apitava, naturally, vertazar be'emshach hazman shvacha m'shvacha. The item becomes weaker and weaker. The baldobras the Chayzik from the others in Moas nemtzuch der full. The strength of the father and mothers comes from was is Zehov Merid when Havaya Chod, that Hashem Echod will shine in them. And those Gitzchibe Birushli B'nei Macharei Madelam. That can be given over an inheritance to the children following them forever. That does not get weaker. Is them to talk in Shinuim, there's no changes. Those Gitzchibe Mitzelm Tekif. This is passed along with the same force. So Yednin, to every Yid, at Seif Kol Adedas, to the end of generation, in an Eifrim Felosha Nisi, in a way that it didn't change. So this is the strength of a Yid through the Avos v'Imoz, not a physical strength. Physical strength gets diminished. That strength is to negate yourself versus a strength of a being is to become a stronger being. And that's why he's Meresh Tzurim, because it comes from the Father, it comes from the spark of godliness. That's why they're totally on a different level. And that's how come it can get passed along, and that's how we have the Mesiris Nefesh from one generation to the other generation. That gives them these Meresh Tzurim, gives them the power of the Tzurim and the Gevoris. This is Sichos Shabbos Parshas Chukos Balak Tafshin Lamed Beis.